Hello, good day. I'm doing question 1 for my group, which is the ARP spoofing and the SSL strip attack. To perform this attack, we're using two VMs. We're using Kali Linux and Windows XP. So to start off, you have to visit this website. It's an article made by this guy, Moxie Marlin Spike. He demonstrated the attack in a convention in 2009, and here you can download the package that he has for us. So you can perform the attack yourself. He has some instructions in setting up the environment and as well as some commands to run. I'm running through the commands to run the SSL strip, so all you'll need to do is set up the environment. Okay, let's head on over to our machine, Kali Linux. This is the attacker's machine, and this is where we're going to perform the attacks on the victim. So we're going to open up our terminals, and the first command we're going to run is the IP forward command. So what this will do is it will put your machine in forwarding mode, so any packets that come in can now be forwarded to its destination. And you do this by putting a 1 in the IP forward file. Usually it starts off as 0, so this is just to ensure that we set it to 1. The next command is the IP tables command. Right, so let's just have a brief look at this command. If you look at it, what it does is it sets a port 1212 and it sets a destination port 80. So any traffic coming to port 80 will come through, port 1212. Press enter there. Next, we're going to look at the ARP spoof command. If you look at it, let's run through the command briefly. We need an interface, we need the victim's IP address, and we need a gateway address. That's what you need to perform the ARP spoof attack. And you can get all of those things without even being on your victim's machine with just some commands in Linux itself. You can use the ifconfig to get the interface. You can use routend to get your gateway. And then you can run something like nmap so you can find all the hosts connected to this router. So while that's running, we're going to run this ARP spoof command. Since we're on the victim's machine, before we look at that, let's look at the victim's machine for 1 second. Since we're on the victim's machine, we can actually double check that we're targeting the right person. So the IP address we're looking for is 1.105, and we're going to look through this and we're going to see different machines and IP addresses. And oh, here we go, Windows XP, and we look at the IP address, it's the same. So that's how I got the target's IP address. So with that, now let's run the command. So what this will do is this will go into the router and basically copy my link my IP address with the router's MAC address. So any information that the target would send to the router would then be redirected to me, and then I would redirect it to the router. So this is how you perform. This is one aspect of the man-in-the-middle attack. So with the traffic going through me, I can dictate what happens to it. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stop this for 1 second. We're just going to go on the victim's machine. So unbeknownst to the victim that I'm trying to attack them, they're just going to be browsing. So a popular website that people go onto is Facebook. So let's do facebook.com. Let's wait for it to load. We're using an older browser to perform this attack, because newer browsers have lots of guards against these. Browsers like Firefox and Chrome, for popular websites like Facebook and Google, they have ready-made certificates to give to the users of their websites. So on newer browsers, you would hardly be using an HTTP connection to access their websites. Let's go over this again. I may have ended it wrong. Facebook.com. Let's give it a second or two. Okay, it came up. So as we can see here, it's HTTPS, right? This is secure. And you can also see the little lock icon. So any passwords going through here will be encrypted. So let's perform the attack. Let's set up the ARP spoof, right? We're going to run the SSL stripping command. Right, so let's look at the command. Remember that port we used before? This is the same port we're going to connect at. So any traffic coming at port 1212, we're going to attempt to strip off the S from the HTTPS and serve back an HTTP site. There's a few commands you can do with this. We're going to do, there's /a and /p. We're going to take a look at /a first. And then on this window here, we're going to have a log. And we're going to, all of the information that the SSL gets is stored in a log, and we're just going to display that log over here. Let's just push this up a bit. Okay. Let's go to the victim site. Let's try a simple site that I know isn't encrypted. Example.com. As you can see, it's already getting data. So this is an HTTP site. So it displays the information unencrypted. So let's try Facebook.com again and see what happens. Now remember, we did it before and it came back as HTTPS. And now we did it and it's HTTP. And the lock icon is no longer there. But it served the site almost the same way. If the victim is not looking for the S here or the lock icon, they will not see it and they would enter their information. I'm going to enter something generic. Let's see. No. And there we have it. Okay, the information is rolling fast. So there's a lot of clutter here that we don't want to see. So let's see if we can clean that up. Let's stop the SO stripping. Run back the command. We're going to do -p. Now -p is almost the same thing, except it will only show post data. So let's go back to the victim's address. Let's enter facebook.com. And it's served back again. Right? So the victim would have sent facebook.com to me. I would have forwarded facebook.com over to Facebook servers. But when the connection comes back to me, I would serve facebook.com HTTP to the victim. So let's enter some information. Enter something generic. And there, we got a response. So it's the same email address as well as the password I entered. And that is basically the SSL stripping attack. As I said before, this attack is kind of obsolete on your browsers. There are lots of different ways that people attempt to stop this attack. There's the HSTS protocol that states whenever you visit a site to force HTTPS, as well as the newer browsers, like I said, Google Chrome, right? Now, the information is still logged. If you do a HTTP site on Google Chrome, it still will send over because it doesn't matter. The SSL stripping does not matter on the browser. But let's try facebook.com. Yeah, post data. Let's try entering something. You see, the browser itself sends its data encrypted by default. So none of this information gets sent. You see, this is encrypted post data. It didn't even have it didn't even have HTTPS, and it still did not show. Let's see if we can find anything. Yeah, that was from before, and we can't find the password, so the data is encrypted. So perform the SSL stripping on Internet Explorer for facebook.com, and that's the end of us answering the question.